Ora bem, boa noite e bem-vindos a mais uma edição do 3Dedos de Conversa. Hoje, um dia mais cedo, devido a compromissos profissionais, claro está, devido ao temporal da semana passada, foi-me tudo adiado para esta semana. O tempo não continua nas melhores condições, mas ao que parece, vai continuar a haver ainda verão, ainda que hoje tenhamos entrado a meio da tarde já na nova estação no outono. Vai continuar a haver sunsets, que é o que eu vou fazer amanhã e na próxima quinta-feira também, em solo Lisboeta. Portanto, não vou dizer a quem me queira fazer uma visita, porque a malta já está a trabalhar em full throttle. Portanto, meus amigos e minhas amigas, até 1 de outubro vamos continuar com o DJ Pedro Monchique na estrada e em modo aparece-desaparece. Portanto, aguenta-se bem a coisa, que a gente estava a precisar disto depois de 2 anos a comer no pacote. Miguel Brandão, Pedro Nuno Silva e Grupo OldSkool Portugal, boa noite a todos que estão aí desse lado. Hoje vamos ter um programa especialíssimo. Or como se diz, or how we say it in American, very specially, very special. Tonight we are going to have a special broadcast. My English is it's not rusty, isn't it, Saeed? Saeed is already see me on that window in my left side, so grande parte do programa eu vou falar em inglês americano. Espero que consigam traduzir mais ou menos aquilo que nós vamos falar, até porque a conversa vai fluir muito mais em inglês que propriamente em português. Espero que não levem a mal as bacuradas que eu vou dizer, até porque, como eu disse, o meu inglês não é o melhor, mas está para aí à volta dos 60, 65%. Obrigado, Felício. A propósito disso, eu já te mando uma fotografia quando isto acabar do Zezé Camarinho e do Bruno Carvalho, os dois na praia ao engate. Portanto, temos connosco hoje um grande DJ, um dos grandes produtores top mundiais, um homem que celebrou os seus 50 anos há muito pouco tempo e que de certeza nos vai pôr aqui com o rabinho em brasa, porque ele anda aí a fazer umas coisinhas fantásticas, anda aí a recaustar os seus clássicos e é, sem dúvida, merecedor desta semana o DJ Saeed Younan. So, Cris Marques, boa noite. Jorge Gafanis, boa noite. Tudo bem? Espero-vos bem. And now, ladies and gentlemen, no more chit-chat. We are going to pick up from the United States of America with 5 hours difference, Mr. Saeed Younan.
How are you?
Hey, man. Can we speak with American tradition? Like, yo, man, what the
How you doing, bro?
What's up, man? So how you do, man? Saeed, it's a pleasure to be with you here tonight. Before we talk about everything and anything, I want to thank you for you to accept this invitation of OldSkool Portugal. It's a pleasure for us having such a great DJ and producer, and like someone said, a globe-trotting DJ. Who said this, Saeed? Who said this?
Oh, I mean, I've been around the globe many times, so the whole trotting thing is, it's just like a lifestyle for me now. So I don't know who coined it. I guess it was a publicist, or I think maybe in a write-up, some magazine, there were globe trotting DJ. So like,
I'm going to tell you later who wrote this, because if one day I want to have you on my club, I will do this and I will tell you this. Hey, oh man, Saeed, I need you to play on my club, and I want you to show me some globetrotting tricks. You put up the CDJ and you okay.
I'll deal with the records,
Yeah, with some records, with vinyl. Yeah. You see, I can do this. So let's start from let's start from the whole beginning. And the beginning was, I suppose, in March of 1972.
Yeah, year I was
Ah, I'm well informed about it. Yeah. So let's talk about it. The first day that you saw daylight was somewhere on March of 1972.
Yeah, in March 1972 in a land far away from here. It was in Baghdad, Iraq. So that's where I was born. In Baghdad, Iraq, to my mom and dad. I had an older sister by then. I'm the middle boy. Then I have a younger sister. So there's three siblings, three of us. And yeah, born and pretty much, spent the first 10 years of my life living in Baghdad, Iraq, and we pretty much left like right in the beginning of the 1980 during the Iraq and Iran war because of the war was so bad, and I was in training in the already learning in the army and stuff like that at a young age, and my parents just did not want to have anything to do with that, and I'm being the only boy, they didn't want me to be going into the army. So we decided to flee the country in the beginning of 1980, and we went to England to get our papers done. For about a year, we stayed in London, and then from there we came here to the Washington D.C. area, and this is like 1981, 1982, something like that.
That was the next question that I was asking you. But first, that 10 years on Iraq, living on Baghdad, where lived the music on you?
I mean, I've always been around music when I was a little kid. Not only because, from Iraq, you probably know this, but we have a lot of percussions in the instruments in the
Yes.
Middle Eastern music. We've got the dumbag, we've got all this other stuff. So I was always attracted to the percussions. I love drums. I love all the elements that has the percussive feel, percussive sound. So that was just something I've always was drawn to. The other thing I was drawn to when I was little is I used to have a small radio, like just antenna,
Yes.
nothing special.
Yeah.
And I used to try to tune in, find European stations or any international stations. I was picking up Indian stations, European stations, and I'll just tune in, find the station, and as soon as I hear something I like, I had a cassette tape in the player, and I would hit record and record music. And whatever I can record, I just listen to it over and over and over again. I mean, the reception was really bad, but when you can get a good reception, I used to actually sit on the roof.
On the roof. Yeah. Just do.
In Iraq, we had a flat roof, so you can like actually walk up on it and stuff. So, but if you sit
Yeah.
up,
The reception was good on there. Okay. Okay.
excellent reception.
And on those years, I suppose you listened more some disco sounds and some things about Michael Jackson and the Jackson Fives and Kool and the Gang. I suppose was this the songs that you were
No,
talking about?
it was a lot of ABBA. A lot of ABBA was on the radio.
Oh
Disco,
yeah, okay, okay.
a lot of ABBA, Donna Summer, stuff like that. I was picking up a lot of disco for some reason, and that was like late '70s, so it was the disco era, back then. So, but yeah, a lot of disco stuff.
So when you went to London, when you went to England, the difference was huge. You were 11 years old on that time, but you still had that feeling for music, I guess.
Yeah, I did. When we got to London, it was actually the punk scene. It was right in the peak of the punk
Oh
scene, and like
yeah, 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 yeah.
schools, all that stuff. So I've, coming a little boy from Iraq, going to London and seeing Mohawks.
Yeah.
It was like it was scary. Like it was a horror show for me. But then I really started getting to even more music. I believe the year we were there, the number one song was "Eye of the Tiger" from the movie
Hey, yeah, from the
Rocky.
movie Rocky. Yeah, from Rocky movie. Yeah,
For one
yeah.
song. So I was getting into that. I was listening to Adam Ant, all other stuff, and I was, mixing what I heard in Iraq with the stuff I'm hearing in London with the punk scene, the mainstream
The,
radio. It all started just kind of coming together. And I just even fell more in love with music because of that.
so you change again the culture of your life. you go out from London, from UK to United States, Washington. It was another reality.
Yeah, it was. I was still little. I came here to the U.S. not knowing a word of English. I had a lot of, I had really a lot of problems making friends. I was a loner a lot of times. I just couldn't make friends. I couldn't communicate. So I spent a lot of time alone, and that time alone was all me and music, and that's it. And that's why I gravitated toward music, because it was like my only friend growing up as a kid, and it was the only thing that I can enjoy without having to either. It had nothing to do with language. It had nothing to do with communicating. It just had a feel. To me, the music was just a feeling. I didn't even understand some of the words, but I just fell in love with it. I love the music.
So I saw that word globetrotting on your biography in the internet site from Resident Advisor.
Mhm.
And what this says is Saeed Younan is a world class globetrotting DJ, recording artist, sought after remix producer, and the head of his own Younan Music. So tell me, Saeed, what was the thrill, the way, the path that you run from your school age until you turn into a DJ?
Ah, man. So there were many paths to get me to where I am right now. Basically, when I was in high school, I got into DJing. I found, I had a good friend of mine who was a hip hop DJ, and we would sometimes skip classes to go to his house and mess around with his with his turntables, and scratch some records, show me how to scratch, show me how to mix records. And from that, I just love it. I just never seen anything like it. Never seen two records coming together. Back then we didn't even have an actual mixer. It was like a microphone mixer, so it was just two volume knobs and no fader, nothing like that. So we just kind of had to blend in the two records in. It was very makeshift stuff.
Yeah,
So
we are talking about 1985, maybe 84, 85.
no, about 88, 89. That's when, like,
Oh,
towards
okay, okay,
the
okay,
end of my high school. Yeah. Uh,
okay, okay,
but I mean, even before that, I was into already break dancing. Like 84, 85, I was into break dancing. I was getting into music by Run DMC, Houdini, all that stuff. That
okay.
era. But that kind of brought me into where I am as a DJ, because I started playing hip hop, not necessarily because I loved hip hop, but I love DJing. And the only way you can DJ is you have to play hip hop, because nobody else, I didn't know anything else back then. So I fell in love with DJing. I started playing hip hop just so I can DJ. I started doing school dances and doing house parties and events like that. And just slowly started learning about hip house and house music and all that stuff. That was all like while I was still in high school. I haven't even been to clubs or anything yet, but toward the end of my senior year, actually, as I went to my first club here in Washington D.C. It was called Chicago's. If a, it's tough to name
Yeah,
a club, right?
yeah.
So Chicago was the one of the first house clubs I went to, and when I heard house music, that's where I like, oh my god, that's like the next chapter in my musical journey. First time realizing, okay, there's this music that's not hip hop. It's called hip house, so it's a little bit of hip hop
Okay,
with house
with
music.
house music, yeah.
Okay, and I gravitated toward that, and I fell in love with hip house and house music.
So you said about one thing that is important on this conversation. You talked about you weren't able to make some friends when you get on the United States of America in Washington, but um, you were a brave boy on that time. And I have to ask you this: when the wall came down, for the people see that you have a gift on you about the DJing scene.
I think, man, it wasn't so much they saw the gift. I have to actually help them open the gift. It's like I have to be out
Yes,
there,
yeah.
here, see what I have, type of thing. Because nobody wanted to give you a chance. So I spent hours upon hours in my parents' basement just making mixtapes to go to the clubs and give them to promoters. I'll stand like at a club in DC till like 3:30 in the morning, and I have like stacks of tapes. I'll give it to the club owner, the promoter, and if I have any tapes left, I give it to the people who are walking out of the club who I think they might maybe be interested and whatnot. So I did a lot of that until I finally got a call from a club in DC. Actually, it was a record store that hosted a DJ contest, and they're like, "Look, we're gonna have a DJ contest. If you," and there's a funny story about that. So we're gonna have a DJ contest outside. The contest is you pick, we pick records for you. You don't know what they are. You know what genre it is, but you don't know what the records are, and you have to mix
You
them.
have to mix them. Yeah.
And the funny thing is, believe it or not, at that time, Christian Smith, the techno DJ,
Yes.
he went to American University. So we were head to head, the final DJs in Washington, D.C., as we're doing that
Yeah.
contest.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's how I got discovered. And I was actually, they were giving me like techno records, some Rotterdam stuff, some really heavy German stuff with house, and I had to make it all work. And I did. And I was, I think, one of the finalists in the competition. And from there, the clubs in DC took notice, and they're like, all right, let's book him and see what he can do.
And then you were on the road.
Yeah. After
And
that,
after that, you were on the road. So the first gig that you had to a big audience next to that was in DC or out of DC?
well, DC was like my first base home gigs because I had to break my the local scene to get them to kind of believe in me. So I had a couple of really great gigs in DC. So we're talking about like 1991, 1992. I started playing raves in Washington,
Yes,
DC.
raves
Warehouse.
were emerging on that
Oh,
years. Yeah.
yeah, they were really, really big in DC. So I started pitching my sets to rave promoters. So I started playing some raves, and from there we basically just trying to make more connections with promoters outside of the Washington D.C. area. So I started talking to other people on how they're gigging outside from in Washington D.C. area. But I was having a really hard time getting booked outside of DC in the beginning of the 1990, and I couldn't figure out why that I couldn't get booked in other states. So I was like, you know what? There's got to be a better way to do this instead of just being a DJ. Let me try to see what I can do in regards to making music. Maybe if I make some music, people will see that I'm not just a DJ, but I'm also like, I can produce, I can make
Yes,
tracks.
an artist. Okay.
Yeah, full artists. And back then, in the like you would know, like I do, you didn't have to be a producer to be a great DJ. When you're a DJ, you're a DJ. Like that. That's its own art form. You didn't have to have this whole other umbrella of being a great producer just so you can get gigs. You got gigs because you're a great DJ, and that's all that mattered back then. So getting into music production, I figured like maybe this will help me step out of the DC market and go to other places and other venues. I got with a couple of friends of mine. They started showing me how to use the studio gear. I think we started out with like Cubase back then, making music on Cubase, made a couple of tracks, and I started shopping them and giving them a couple of labels. And that actually helped me get my name out there and play at different places.
So in the first beginning, the first gig, or the first gigs that you had back there in the 80s or the 90s, in the beginning of the 90s, did you have a DJ who was a reference to you?
Yeah, of course. Like I used to, and I talked about this many times. I got into the tribal sound. Well, I was always into percussion, but I got into the tribal house mainly because of my trips going to New York. From Washington, D.C., I used to go up to New York, and I used to visit all the clubs there, mainly being Twilo for Danny Tenaglia and Palladium for Junior Vasquez. Those were like my go-to clubs, especially Danny at Twilo. I used to, I mentioned this in another, I used to work at a grocery store. Now it's called Whole Foods. It used to be called Freshfield back then. I used to be a cashier at the grocery store. My shift would end at 9 p.m. I'll finish my shift, walk to the bus station, get on a bus called Greyhound, and go to New York, which is a 5-hour trip. By the time I get to New York, it's like around 1 o'clock.
You're crazy, man.
I go to Twilo, listen to Danny till about 7 a.m., then hop back on the Greyhound, 5 hours sleep, and I go to my morning shift at the same place
Oh
I was
my god.
working. That's how like devoted I was to the music.
Oh
And
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
after I'm done with my work shift, I go home and I start making music because I want to like remember everything I heard Danny do or Junior Vasquez or whoever the DJ was. But mainly Danny was the guy I really admired, and I his sound and his mixing, the way he teased the crowd with the tracks. Like I remember, man, I remember he played "Fired Up" by the Funky Green
Yeah.
Dog,
But yeah.
the intro for like 2 hours until he finally brought the whole track in and the place just erupted. Like I have that embedded in my head. I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it.
So this is curious. This is curious because this last question that I made to you, I see here a little connection with Portugal because Danny Tenaglia and Junior Vasquez were the leaders of the big hit from Portugal. They played Underground Sound of Lisbon, So Get Up for the first time, maybe on that club of Danny Tenaglia and Junior Vasquez. So this is a little connection that you have to Portugal. This is a curious coincidence on this answer that you talked about in the last minutes. So that was crazy. I have to tell you, you have to go 5 hours buzz and then go to the club, then another 5 hours buzz, sleep on flash mode, then go to work again, and you were crazy, man.
yeah, it's the passion, man. And it's like, but you have that euphoria. It's so like it feels amazing, like just to and mind you, like I didn't like go and we weren't partying, we weren't drinking nothing. This is just purely for just experiencing the vibe, the club, and like mentally noting the tracks that are being played. Okay, can I do this in the studio? Can I try this? Oh, I like the way he played. Like it was all like just remembering. Back then, like we didn't have cell phones. We weren't doing recording anything. It all had to be mentally remembered from the club. It was amazing.
So when it came up, your first production.
First production. So I started out as a solo artist. I released stuff on like Yoshitoshi, Gossip Record, which is Strictly Rhythm's sister label.
Yes.
Then after that, I decided to launch my own label with a partner called Addictive Records. So that way we can release our own music and not have to worry about so much waiting for other labels to release it. And we're actually at that time we are making a unique sound which we called tribal progressive. In the mid '90s, late '90s, there was only either progressive house, which is the European sound, and there's house, which is US sound. We wanted or tribal house. We wanted to kind of merge that together. We wanted to bring the proggy sound of UK with the tribal house of
Of
US.
US. Yeah.
Yeah, and so to bring that together, we created Tribal Progressive and Addictive Record. From what everybody told me, it's one of the first labels coined that phrase, Tribal Progressive, because we were one of the first people to bring those sounds together. And Danny Tenaglia loved the label. We had everybody from Carl Cox, Danny Tenaglia supporting that sound, and it felt like it was our sound. So from 1998 till about 2004, we ran Addictive Records and releasing our own music on Addictive Records.
So what? Who was the first DJ the first superstar DJ that you played
That I played with, or
with? Yes, yes,
oh,
yes.
I played with first superstar, Danny Tenaglia, 100% over, and I think it was either called Vinyl or Arc back then. I know it changed name. Danny invited us to play with him for New Year's Eve and to do like the President Day, like all the big events, all the big holiday weekends in New York. He would invite us to come down and play and with Danny Tenaglia. So he's definitely the first.
What was that sensation? Years after you were on studio, you were watching him in the DJ booth, and then you were invited by the man,
Yeah.
your
Well,
reference.
yeah,
How was
I
that? How was that?
Well, the crazy before he invited us to play with him, he actually I when he was in Washington D.C., I gave him a cassette of an edit I did or mix I did of "Music Is the Answer," I didn't think anything of it. I was like, oh, here I did something, and I was like, oh, Danny's not gonna get back to me. This is when like he didn't know who I was, and I put my phone number on the cassette tape. Like weeks went by, I get a message in our on my parents' home answering machine. It's from Danny Tenaglia saying that he loves the music is the answer, and if I can send him a DAT copy of it and come to Tunnel next week. And he has a surprise. I was like, oh my God, so he's gonna probably play it, whatever. So I give him the DAT. Me and my friend pack up the car, like about me and my 5 man. We drive up to New York to go to Tunnel, and we're just on the dance floor. Danny's in the booth. Nobody really can go up there, and we're just dancing, dancing, dancing. And all of a sudden, he drops my remix, and there's a sea of at least 3,000 people. And this is the first time I ever heard my own production being played by somebody I admire in a club with 3,000 people. I mean, I can't even tell you the feeling of just watching around your track on the system, people dancing to something you made in your parents' basement. You know,
Yeah. Goosebumps.
oh my God, yeah, it's like taking me back there. But from that moment on, me and Dane became really good friends, and this is when he said, "Look, I want you and you and your partner Palaj back then. It was Saeed and Palaj to come and play with me at Vinyl." And man, I mean, let me tell you, it was super nerve wracking. It's like watching your master right here,
Yeah,
and like
yeah.
mixing, he's watching everything you do. It was nerve wracking, but it was amazing because I felt so alive, man. It's just crazy.
Since that, I guess that was the how I can tell this. In Portugal, we say it açoite. It's like beating in your ass, and you go up. That was the beat in your ass, and then you, Syed and Palash duo, were the main producers of many hits in the beginning of the 2000s, on that decade. But my question is, and let's get back some years. What about your parents? What they said, both of you being a DJ?
Yeah, well, I mean, as you
After
know,
all, you worked on their basement, okay?
yeah. After, I mean, at first they thought this was a hobby. It was just for fun. Saeed's just gonna do it through school. Then they found out what I had. They found out that things are kind of picking up and labels are listening. They obviously, they're traditional Middle Eastern parents. Nightclubs, DJing is not on their radar. It's not something they want any of their kids to do because it's not a good look. They want you, obviously, like most parents, either a lawyer, a doctor, or have a good business, something with school. So my parents made an ultimatum with me. They're like, look, you can do what you want in music as long as you finish college. You go to college, get a 4-year degree. If music doesn't work out, you have something to fall on, and that's the only way you'll do it. And if you want to stay in the house, make your music, because at that time my entire studio was in their basement. If they tell me you can't do music, they can easily pull the plug, and I'm done. So I had to go to college because that's what they want me to do in order for me to continue following the music
Oh,
career.
that was the agreement. Okay.
Yeah, so I had to take time off to do college. Then after I'm done with college, I got actually a good business degree, which I'm glad I did because it helps me along with what I'm doing now. I studied mass communication first. I studied advertising, and then I went to night school to do business. So I continued with business school. So I have like a 2 degree kind of thing. But yeah, and that's how they were. But they were at the end of the day, they're super happy, and now they see my dad built a wall in their house of all my flyers, all my records, everything.
A huge fan you got there.
The biggest fan I have.
Yeah, yeah. I have the same problem here at my place because I have an older son with 16 years old, and he's becoming. He wants to be a DJ. And my agreement with them is, I want you to study, have a professional scene to you. I don't want you to suffer that I suffered on this pandemic this last 2 years. So the agreement for him to be a DJ it's the same agreement that your parents did with you. So
With
let's see. Let's see. I don't
with
have a basement. Okay. I don't have a basement. I
so you
only
can't
have
pull
this
the plug.
living room. So let's see. When became up the Saeed Younan label?
After around 2004, this is the time when Napster was kind of taking over everything. Everything's going digital. People aren't buying any more records. Everybody's file ripping from the internet, tracks and whatnot. We decided that the label is just not gonna do well. We were getting a lot of records back from distributors. Like we will have boxes in office, a wall full of boxes of records that were returned from distribution because people are ripping the music digitally from online, so
Yes.
nobody's buying vinyl anymore. So long story short, we decided to shut down Addictive Records in 2004. Me and Palash decided to go separate our ways. I think, what he was starting to have a family. He wanted something stable and move on with something else. I wanted to keep continuing making music and releasing tracks. We also had a bunch of artists that were signed to Addictive Records that wouldn't release their music yet, and their music need to be released because we had a contract with them. So I decided to change I had a corporation called Younan Inc. I took the corporation and added music to it. So it became Younan Music Inc. and made it a digital label so I can release some of these tracks that we signed for the people that never came out on the label because they wanted their music out. So I put it out on Younan Music digitally through Beatport back then. I think it was the only outlet, and iTunes and things like that. The tracks got really good traction. People started downloading it. I'm like, okay, this is good. Maybe I should sign more artists to Younan Music. I started signing more artists and more artists. Then I started putting my stuff on it. And to be honest with you, I never meant for Younan Music to be a record label. It was just supposed to be a thing, a short time thing, just to put the music out from the people we signed on Addictive Records. It was never meant to be a label, but it did so well. It stayed successful. In 2 more years, it's going to be running for 20 years, Younan Music.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
That's a
it's very
life. 20 years. It's a life. But let us know how was your reaction and the most of the artists, but yours on that time when vinyl became to CD and CD to digital.
that man, it was really hard for me. I mean, me and you, I think we're the same. We're very old school. We love the feel and touch of a vinyl. I love the way it sounds.
Yeah.
I love having the artwork because I don't know about you. I don't remember a lot of arts. I remember the artwork. Like on a record, when I'm looking for a record, I don't look for the name. I look for the art. And like, okay, this is it.
Yeah, this is it. Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, switching from that to CDs, that I had to burn the CDs and write my own scribble on it, and I can't even read my own handwriting. So it's just like it became really hard. So instead of like writing on the CDs, I started putting stickers and to creating individual art. So I'll buy like these stickers from a store. They'll have like Halloween stickers, maybe witches, and next to the track, I'll put a picture, and for some reason, I associate the track with these pictures a lot better than the name or what I'm writing, because when you're a club at night in a nightclub, it's really hard to read some of this stuff, but a picture would come through a lot quicker and you can gravitate toward it. So, I went from CDs, then we went to USBs, but at the end of the day, nothing feels to me or sounds like a record does. I mean, we've come a long way with MP3s. Obviously, MP3 sounds a lot better now than they did years ago. But there's something about a vinyl, and also not just for a DJ's point of view, from an audience point of view, they love watching somebody mixing on records than somebody just pushing buttons. It's more artistic in my opinion.
You still editing on vinyl?
Do I what?
Editing on vinyl. You put your tracks on vinyl?
No, I don't. I
You
don't
still
do
do that, or only on digital on CD?
we just put out digital now. It's just I know in Europe it's a lot better and it's a lot easier to do it than here in the US. That's why a lot of labels in the US don't press vinyl. It doesn't sell the way it does in Europe, especially singles and EPs. There's not that big of a market for it here, from what I understand.
So, what when was the first time that you came play to Portugal?
Wow. Oh man, I don't remember the name of the club.
I see back here on the chat, Miguel Brandão wrote that saw you on Lucumia in Algarve.
Yes, now I remember that. Yeah, I remember that place. That's
Okay,
the one that's like it was. I think it's a stage, right? Like it's a long.
okay, it's here. As you can see, Miguel Brandão, Saed, I saw him in Lucumia.
Locomia. I remember Locomia. Yeah, actually, that was the night we. I remember that night because we went out and there's a guy dressed like a condom giving out condoms. He's like a. He's like giving out condom, but he was like in the condom costume. Like it's funny, but yeah, I remember Locomia was awesome. That was a really dope club. It was amazing time.
It was the best club, one of the best clubs in Portugal. So you, on that night, on that time, you felt the energy of the Portuguese people on the dance floor.
Yeah, 100%. It's always. I remember there wasn't even a time. There was no time limit. Like we can play all night, and that's the thing I remember from Portugal. There wasn't a set time where you had to stop, and the people were there till the end, till we decide to stop. They're on the dance floor having a great time. The vibe, the energy. I mean, it's unmatched, man. Like I wish I can take like a time machine and going back to that time and just feeling that energy. No cell phones on the dance floor, nobody's stepping, everybody is there for the music, dancing and having a good time. I miss that so much.
It's good you to talk about that, but we will talk about it later because it's one of the damage on these years is that what you told about um, now. But first, let's back to 2004 when you and Palash go in separate ways. Um, Looking about your career, it was on, I think, in the middle of it because you have already 35 years of career. Is that?
Right now, yeah, I mean, I started DJing in 1988, but
Yeah.
didn't professional till about 90. I mean, I quit my job in 1998. So
So, okay, let's go to 35 because the first time we touched on music, it's the very first year that we are into this business. So, almost 35 years of a huge career of brilliant things and great stories. But from 2004 ahead, it was another story without Palash.
yeah, this is it was a difficult one at first. As many artist duos know, when people know you as a duo and you try to break away, I mean, look at like NSYNC and all these other boy bands. It's really hard to kind of recreate your image, recreate your artistry, and let people believe in you as a solo artist because they'll always see you as a duo. So that was a really difficult time for me because I had to reprove myself to my not only to the Saeed and Palash fans, but to the new fans that I'm trying to bring on. So I had to reassure them that hey, I am the producer. I can DJ. I can do it all, and I wanted to prove myself to them as an artist, as a solo artist. So what should I do? The first thing I should do, well, put out a really great single. Put out a really great single on one of my favorite labels back then, which was Bamboo Recordings, a label out of Australia. I put out the first track called I Got It, which actually it's my voice on there. Girl, I give it to you. I know what you want. I got it. That's all my voice on it.
Oh
so,
my God. Oh, yeah.
so,
Sayed to an Emmy now.
so I was like, let me put out a solid track. I want people to know what sound, what I'm gonna be doing. This is who I am, and that was the first release as a solo artist. I had ones before Saeed and Palaj, but this is the first legit release after we broke up as a duo. So I put that out, and it spread like wildfire. Everybody loved it. It was getting great reviews. It was reviewed in tons of magazines. All the DJs were playing it. I'm like, all right, now I have to follow it up with something else. What should I do? I started looking at other remixes. I started doing Moody remix. I started working with Tweak Records. I started working with Cult Records. I started working with Star 69 again. Just trying to kind of show people that I am a true artist. Like this is what I do. I'm not. It doesn't have to be a duo things that I can. I'm the product. I'm the real stuff. So it was hard to get to that point because people also still saw the Saeed and Palaj duo, but once I broke off, you became Saeed Younan and putting out these tracks and all of them charting, putting out a compilation, people started gravitating toward the single artist. And that didn't take, I mean, from 2004 till I say about 2008, a good 4 years, I was still struggling because when they called to book me, they're like, we want the duo. Well, we're not a duo anymore. Okay, well, we want, this is what we want. That took about 4 years for people to slowly back away from and see me as a solo artist.
On that years, in the same years from 2004 ahead, the planet became a sort of cultural and musical things change, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
On the US, which reference, and UK, they are two different countries who the Europeans most have a reference, a musical reference. On that years from 2004 ahead, there were the reggaetons, the hip hop, the Cuban things. In the US, the majority of music is commanded by hip hop, R&B, reggaeton, things like this.
Mhm.
Did you felt some difficulties on the dance floor with that generation from 2004 ahead, on those years that you and Saya and you and Palash go in separate ways?
No, I mean, thankfully enough, the clubs, the representation we had, our management, our booking agent, steered away from that vibe 100%. So they were only booking us in clubs that they knew was going to be for the sound
Okay.
that we do. And we never got, thankfully, we never got booked or got mashed into that scene at all. We were just doing our own thing. We always did like festivals like Creamfield, um, uh, the big festivals, which is only electronic music. So yeah, we didn't have to deal with that much.
Did you ever been on that big festival on a desert called Iron Man?
The Burning Man?
Yeah.
No, I haven't, but I've been invited so many times to do it. I have not had the chance. I know it just passed.
Uh, I was
Have you?
thinking that you were going to tell us a big story about it.
No, I wish I did. I had a bunch of DJs that are like, "Yo, we have a trailer. Come with us. You don't have to set up a tent." I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I want to do it, but I don't know. We'll see. Maybe."
As a DJ, you are you did you listen some radio occasionally or not?
I listen, yeah, I listen to the radio all the time. I actually don't listen to dance music all the time. From listening to demos, listening to promos, listening to my own music in the studio, I have to kind of steer away from dance music for a little bit. So I really enjoy like dub reggae. I like jazz. I like what else do I like? I like all kind of different music, but I listen to Spotify all the time to hear what other artists are doing, kind of pay attention to see what's going on in the music, like how are people that 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 do my style of music, what their playlists look like, what are they listening to. It's always nice to know what everybody's listening to, especially the people who follow you. I listen to a lot. I go to a lot of fans pages and see what other artists they like, aside from me, obviously, when they say, "Oh, I'm a fan of yours." I like to see who else they're listening to and see how everything kind of gels together, you know?
And what do you think about the musical scenes of today?
Um, I have mixed feelings about it. I think, it's the the dance music era. I mean, the dance music is great, but there's just, I don't know. There's been a lot of how do you call it? There's a lot of recycling going on. Things are being recycled, like not just acapellas, like vocals, certain hooks from old songs have been recycled. I think originality hasn't kind of lost its luster. It's not a lot of original stuff anymore. It's more copycat. And I'm not saying everybody does that. I'm just saying this is what I hear, this is what I see, and maybe I'm being biased about that because maybe that's what I hear something and I gravitate toward that. I was like, oh, I know this track. I have the vinyl of that, and now it just came out as a new track, and it's a complete sample. Like maybe that's how I see it because I'm I'm gravitating toward that because I already know it in my head that this is an old track and it's a record I have hanging here in my studio. But I see a lot of recycling going on. But on aside from that, the pros of that is that I see a lot of kids doing really amazing creative stuff who are taking older things but really twisting them up and matching them and creating something completely new that you wouldn't even know that this was something that already had previously come out, and that to me is refreshing.
So you think that is a lack of originality from the DJs, or are the new kind of things that music can give to us DJs to play on the future?
So I think it comes from two things. It comes from younger kids who probably don't know how famous some of these songs are, and they take the hook and they try to use it because it's not from their era, but from you and I will know
Yeah.
like this is a hook, this is an old famous hook, but they don't know because they just came into it. So there's that part of that they probably don't understand that hey, this song has been out and it's been number one, and to them is like, oh, I'm gonna sample this. It's from 1989. Nobody will know. No, we know.
We know,
So
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so there's that end of it, but there's also DJs who will play that stuff because to them, like I do it all the time because it's a song I remember. It's from my 1989. I will definitely play it because it gives me a good feeling that a remembrance of that time when I used to play it. So it's everybody's at fault, but it's really nobody's at fault because it's the joy of bringing you back to that moment from that original record. So yeah, I'll play an edit from somebody, or I'll play a mashup from somebody that's using an old, let's say, I Feel Love, arpeggiator or whatever, because to me that feels great. It sounds great to me.
Let's get back here to resident advisor, because they write here something that I want to pick up for our next talk. Everything he plays or uh, touches turns into sonic gold. This is a paragraph from DJ Mag. And
Yes.
this is true because in the 2020s, you made a gold remix from First Tribal Feeling of Pete Tazuk. Isn't this true?
Yes, I did that. Yeah, that was an awesome,
How
awesome.
that was my track of that summer. We couldn't work as in clubs or discos, or only on sunsets and only on DJ dinners in restaurants, but that was my golden track from the 2020s. And I have to tell you, man, that was huge.
Yeah.
Two things on this. How became this invitation from Pete Tazuk?
Mhm.
And man, what did you drink on that time? Because that was huge. Okay, let us know about this.
Yeah. So I love the track. I love the original track. So it's just like I have an amazing respect for him, and I love the production, and it's one of my favorite labels. So when I got the chance to remix it, I already knew in my head what I wanted to do with it, what I wanted to add, the little horns and stuff like that. So it already, when I do a remix, I already kind of draw it in my mentally in my brain on how I do it. It's almost like how an architect looks at a building and sees how they want to build it and stuff. I kind of have the same vision in my head. Like when I want to work on a track, I see the structure, how it's going to be built, what I'm going to insert in certain places, and just go with my feeling with it. And with this one, I kid you not, it just like it all came together, like as if it's just like, okay, I'm gonna do this and that. It's one of the fastest remixes I've done, but the reason why it was done so fast is because everything worked, everything came in, everything I put together in it, and it came out to what it is, and it just I love it. It's one of my favorite remixes.
You're not the one who love. I love it
Thank you.
in triple, in triple, in triple, in triple. Man, congratulations. That
Thank
was you could do anything to that, but like DJ Max said, you pick it up and you turn it into solid gold.
thank you.
Because I don't like the DJ producers move some things on some classics. It was
Gotcha.
better. It was better not to produce them or remash them or remake it or what else. But you did a wonderful work on that, man. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So that was one of the hits that you made on that year, but you have some other hits that I want to talk about you. One of them was one of the most played tracks into the 2000 from 2010 decade, which is called Moody.
Yes. Yes. So that was
That was on that time that you became a single DJ again on 2005, wasn't that?
exactly, yeah. That's actually the first time I heard Moody was on Danny Tenegle's and Athens Global Underground CD. And when I heard that track, I was like, I need to make a remix of that track. And sure enough, Cult Records and Tweaked Records actually were the ones who approached me to do the remix. And they approached John Creamer and Stefan K to do the B side, or vice versa. I don't know, I remember. But yeah, that I fell in love with that vocal, and I knew I needed to do something a bit more, a little bigger sounding with nice bass line, nice kick, and just play around with the vocals, chop up the vocals a little bit. That was kind of like my signature. It still is. I'll take a vocal and chop it up and make it stuttery. So I'll do some stutter like with the get moody, or like Salida, the underground. I chopped up bump bump. Like I do a lot of chopping up of the words. That was like my signature. So I took that, I did the remix, I gave it to Tweak. It, I believe it charted number 1 in a couple of places, and I got a message. I don't know who it was. I think I was talking about, but a big soccer or you call football star in Egypt had a video of him singing it in his car. Get moody, and people were sending it to me from
Yeah.
Egypt. They're like, this, I forgot his name, but he's a really big football player. He's like, he's singing your track, your remix. Check it out, check it out. And because of that, I got crazy hits on my social media because of him playing Moody, and he's singing to it in his car. And yeah, I mean, it's still to this day. To me, this is like one of those timeless remixes. Like it's still, if you play it today, it still sounds fresh.
I played that Moody on a marriage party last Saturday.
Oh,
So
nice.
you can see, so you can see, Moody in Portugal was one of the most played tracks in 2005. So here you see, we are we are a good public. We are a
Yeah,
good
wow,
public for your
know
tracks.
your music. You guys know your music. I love that.
So I have one more hit that you made from the end of the 90s, something called Hustle's Revenge.
Hustlers.
Oh man, that is wonderful. That is wonderful. I like your style, your music style. It fits on my music concept now. I was too much mainstream until before the pandemics, until 2019. So the pandemics makes me good because I made a stream. I was streaming every day in the pandemics, so I
Oh,
created a monster on this side. So I told you, welcome to the most dancing living room in Portugal, because I made some streamings to Asia, Australia, UK, United States, Brazil, Canada. So my English is a bit rusty, but it fits
no, you
to do this
sound
kind
great.
of things. To do this
You
kind
sound
of things.
really good. Very
So
good
I
English.
played. So I played some of your tracks because your music concept, your music style fits on my music style now. So I do play this Hustle's Revenge, First Tribal Feeling, and Moody. Too much
Nice.
time. Too much. Too much. Too much. Too much. Too much.
Thank
Okay, Syed, we already have 1 hour of conversation. This time
you.
pass like like this. So I want to talk about you about the last 2 years of the pandemics. In March of 2020, we beat on this wall called COVID-19. And nobody expect this. When you were on your golden years, did you expect to pass by on something like this?
No, I never expected this to happen. I never thought it was going to affect us in the industry the way it did. I mean, it just came out of nowhere. And just like you guys, everybody here in the US in the music industry, whether you're a promoter, DJ, a band, whatever, a club owner, a bar owner, everybody was affected. And it really hit us the most because we relied on touring to be on the road to gig. And when you can't fly, you can't be in a club. We had to think of different ways to make ends meet. One of the ways I did was launch like a Patreon account, and I started giving people like music, or right now I give them parts from production, like sample packs. I create audio stems in the studio. I was trying to find creative ways to make income because COVID or not, we still had bills to pay. That this is all I do is DJ, produce, and run a record label. So yeah, it was very difficult, and we didn't, thankfully we got out of it the way we did, and we had some help along the way from the government just to take care of some bills. But it was a struggle. It was really tough for us.
How did you spend your time these 2 years?
Pretty much just making music. I'd made an album. I worked on an album, which I released last year. So I had time to sit in the studio, make an album. It was called Morph. It was all original tracks, brand new tracks. There's 13 tracks on the album. And just to keep myself busy. I think music is the only way you can kind of keep your head in place and be, kind of not have too much anxiety over what's going on in the world. I just come here in the studio, shut off from the world, and just make music. That's all I did.
It's Morph, called the album from 2021 from Saeed Younan. You can watch them and listen to him on Saeed Younan Spotify. And the first single, I do think, is Tribal Heart Percussive Soul, isn't it, Saeed?
Yeah, it's one of the first. It's the single went #1 on Traxsource and Beatport 100. But yeah, it's one of the top tracks, which is Tribal Heart Percussive Soul. Pretty much tells you who I am,
Yeah. When did this pass away? It didn't already pass for all, but when they give us the chance to get back to dance floors, how was your reaction to have public again on the
Uh,
dance floor on front of you?
it was an amazing feeling. I mean, just to be back in the clubs, playing, touring, seeing the people on the dance floor, being appreciative of the music, being appreciative of being together. It's an amazing unity feeling to me. As like, there's nothing you can do live streams, you can stream online, but it's not nothing's ever the same as having people right in front of you, enjoying the music and interacting with you, singing along, dancing along. I just love that. To me, the online streaming was a little difficult to do because I couldn't engage with the audience physically. It had to be digitally. And to me, I guess maybe I'm just old school, whatever. I like the bodies to be there in front of me. I can feel them that way.
What we can expect from Syed on next month?
So I'm let's see, I'm obviously still touring. I've got a bunch of gigs here in the US. I'm not going overseas yet. I'm releasing a bunch of new artists on Younan Music. I'm putting out some of my own tracks as well. And I'm also working on my second album, which I am in the process of doing now, to follow up to Morph, which will be coming out maybe at the end of next year or the year after. I just want to spend more time on that. But it's going to be, again, of all original stuff, all original music.
And there is going to be a new remix from Moody.
No,
Yeah.
that's classic. I don't touch that anymore.
Okay. Did you are you coming to Portugal?
I'm gonna work on that. I want to do like when I go to Europe, I want to pull a bunch of dates. I want to do Egypt, Portugal, Morocco. I want to knock it all out at once. So when I'm over here, I do a lot of gigs, then go back to the US. But yeah, it's on my list 100%.
Okay. A few words to our group, OldSkool Portugal.
Man, Portugal, Azores, all these the places I've been. It's just, you guys are amazing. Every party I've played, every person who hosted me has been an amazing person. The food, the food is amazing. The atmosphere, the clubs, the way they take care of you, the hospitality, the fans are like man, you can feel the love and energy when you're DJing to Portuguese. It's like you can feel how appreciative they are of you being there and giving them music and playing for them. So for that, I thank you guys all. Thank you so much.
You can thank in Portuguese. Say it. Obrigado.
Obrigado. I
Oh,
love you.
yeah! Estão a ver, malta? O gajo fala português, hein? Que bacana. I was told them that the dude speaks Portuguese. So, Syed, this is our time to go. Already 1 hour, and I have to go too because I have a little one girl to go back to sleep. Man, this was huge. Was a great pleasure talk with you, talk with one of the greatest classic boy DJ of the world.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
I want to thank you to accept once more the invitation of the Old School Portugal group in my name, in the name of our guys, Pedro Felício, Pedro Nuno Silva, and the whole bunch of boys of Group Old School Portugal. Many thanks once again. Okay. We
Thank
are
you.
in touch, man. We are in touch.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Pedro. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
you.
Like we say it in Portugal. Thank you very nice. Bye, man. Pleasure.
Bye-bye.
I see
Bye.
you.
Okay.
Foi desta forma, a forma possível de ter falado com um dos melhores DJs do mundo, um dos melhores DJs produtores do mundo. Peço imensa desculpa por não ter feito a tradução, o translate ao mesmo tempo, mas grande parte de vocês é capaz de ter entendido e percebido e, sobretudo, compreendido esta grande mente da música mundial que se chama Saeed Younan. Por mim, é tudo. Volto para a semana, quarta-feira, a partir da semana que vem, já com mais... Tento no rabiosque, aqui sentado à quarta-feira à noite, a trazer-vos 3 dedos de conversa com mais um guest DJ da semana do grupo mais carismático da rede social da moda. Já sabem como é que é. Beijinhos a quem é de beijinhos, abraços a quem é de abraços. Tenham uma ótima noite e um resto de uma ótima semana. Tchau, tchau. Beijinhos da boca onde quiserem.